Listen, I have a lot of other lives to do. I have a lot of topics to talk about today. Why in the fuck is the president of Colombia bothering us? Please stop taunting Trump. Don't dare Trump. Keep Trump out of your mouth. Why are you trying to bait us? Why are you trying to make us? Why do you want to fuck around and find out? Be smarter than that. Do better. If you know there's nothing you could do to stop us, why are you literally like begging us to come and apply belt to ass? You're not Colombian, Mr. Colombian President Petro. You haven't done anything wrong yet. You sell coke, big deal. A lot of people sell coke. We have a lot of coke in the United States. That's not the problem. Our issue is really with people that traffic fentanyl through Mexico, not necessarily Colombian coke. Also, our issue with Maduro was that he was flirting with the Chinese, the Iranians, the Russians about building ports so that and then exporting oil from our hemisphere to them. You're not doing that. We don't have any reason to come get you yet. Why are you asking us? Why are you begging us? Also, because of the Dominion voting system and how they use Venezuela to commit fraud in our elections. You know, one thing about the United States, we take our right to vote very seriously. Any fraud or any meddling literally removes our right to vote as Americans. That's something we can't fuck around with. You have to respect that, Mr. President Petro. Now, we have our issues with Maduro. You're his neighbor. Why didn't you try to talk him out of being communist? You're a capitalist. You're not a socialist in Colombia. I love Colombia. I'm there all the time. Your society, why do you think all the hot girls in Colombia come from Venezuela? Why do you think everyone's in Colombia is from Venezuela? That's your neighbor. You like them, right? Why didn't you talk them down? Why didn't you try to give them some advice and say, hey, maybe the whole communist thing is outdated? Why didn't you like talk him off of the ledge? Now you want to talk shit, like just stop. Do not provoke us. Like, we have other things to do. We don't need to come get you too. For what? If you really want to come to the United States that bad, book a Spirit flight like everyone else. Get on Spirit. Get who else comes down there? We have there's like 5 other airlines. Just get on a flight and just come to the United States. Why do you need us to come get you? You want us to send you an Uber? Like, what do you want, dude? Like, that's why let's take a listen.
Responses have been mixed across the region and along bordering nations. Some Venezuelans celebrate the development, while others are accusing the U.S. of trying to steal the country's oil. CBS News national security or national.
It's not stealing. We've conquered it. It's ours now. That's not stealing. You can't steal something that is yours. We've conquered. If you can't defend it, it's not yours. It's mine. That's how it goes. It's to the winner goes the spoils. There's no participation trophies. This isn't Little League. This is geopolitical politics.
Correspondent, I should say, Lilia Luciano continues her reporting at the Venezuelan border with Colombia. Lilia, hello to you once again. We've discussed that the president has threatened Colombia's president just as recently as last night, saying that
yes.
And if it's generating, I wonder if that's generating fear that something similar to what happened to Maduro could happen there.
Well, I think it's important to stress something, that there is a big difference between Colombia's president and Venezuela's former authoritarian leader. Colombia is a democracy, and President Trump and the administration could have concerns about how much cocaine the Petro administration might be allowing. And there's certainly widespread criticism about how lenient he is with the guerrillas here. Petro insists, and he told me when I interviewed him a couple of months ago, that he's the president who has seized the most cocaine in the history of Colombia. It's also the time when the...
Cap. I call bullshit. I'll be honest with you. In Colombia, nobody I know even does cocaine. I haven't seen any cocaine every time I go to Colombia. Never once. And I'm thinking, if you go to Vegas, you go to McDonald's, you order a burger, it comes with a dime bag. Like, it's everywhere in the United States. I didn't see anything in Colombia at all. That was like the weirdest thing. Everyone likes 2C. Nobody deals with cocaine. Everybody likes 2C now. So, but I'll be honest, if Petro was not playing ball, just like the leaders like Scheinbaum and the other leaders of these countries, well, his head would be on a stick. They know better than to cross the cartels. Think about it. Scheinbaum became president because 34 other people that were running were assassinated in Mexico. So why they let her live? Okay, because she plays ball. Why did they let Petro live and become the president? Because he's playing ball. He's Allen Iverson. He's Jordan. He's Kobe. He's hooping. So if you're playing ball, the cartel's going to leave you alone, but you're going to run afoul of the U.S. Trump's giving you an option. He's giving you a choice. Now, it's two fucked up choices. You talk about a rock and a hard place. You're either going to run afoul of the United States, end up like Maduro, or you can run afoul of the cartels and end up like Maduro. You're fucked either way. So I'll be honest, this is too much pressure. If I was the president of Colombia, I'd sidestep and retire and let somebody else take over and leave, because you're cooked either way. You're going to get cooked by the cartels or the people that run the real people that run the country, or you're going to get cooked by the Americans. Either way, you're on the grill. So this would be a good time to probably cut your losses and resign. If you had to ask me. I mean, I'm not going to tell him what to do. He seems like a fully competent man. I don't know if he has all his chromosomes. He doesn't appear to be a Tim Waltz, but he could. You never know.
Most cocaine is being produced is important to mention, but there's a big difference. There's no indictment. There are sanctions from the Treasury Department, but there's no indictment against Petro like there was.
You know, the thing is, I would say Mexico next, but we might save Mexico for last, just because the more belt to ass that the Mexicans see us apply to the Venezuelans and to the Colombians and to anyone else, it's going to demoralize the cartel and the Mexican military and the Mexican government itself. They're going to be demoralized. So when their time comes, they're going to be less likely to want to put up much of a fight. But I'll be honest, they don't have much of a fight they could put up. We're Americans. That's it. Our whole we're born to kick ass. If the real world was Star Trek: The Next Generation, the Americans would be the Klingons. That's us. You know, where we fuck shit up. We put a smile on our faces afterwards. We dress up really nice, but at the end of the day, we will shove foot in ass of anybody. We don't really have a problem with it. We enjoy it. We were built on rebellion in the first place, over taxes against in the colonies, against the crown, and against each other. And then we decided to join into world wars and every other skirmish ever since. We're like the UFC champion of the world. We like this. So you can put up a fight. It won't be much of a fight, but I mean, you can go for it, try it. Yeah, Mexico definitely is on the list. They have to be. There's too much. I've lost friends because of fentanyl poisoning and drugs. I've lost too many people back in California. We all have. People that are just trying to party and have a good time. That's kind of the American way. That's the way we do it around the world. There's nowhere you can go where people don't like to get inebriated and have fun. That shouldn't be a death sentence. You shouldn't have to worry about being poisoned by some assholes in China that send it through the cartels. I mean, yeah, two wrongs don't make a right. Maybe you shouldn't be drinking. Maybe you shouldn't be partying. But does that mean that you should literally have to die? Like, that's not fair to our people. And Trump brings that up. And that's a huge issue, especially in the heartland of the United States. But it's a bigger issue in California because that's where all the deaths you see them are focused there. So apparently that's the port. It comes across the border in California. Then it's distributed to Arizona and Vegas. You don't see as much of the death in Arizona and Las Vegas as you do in California, but it happens. But on the eastern seaboard, you don't really hear about that happening at all because theirs comes from Colombia. So Colombia is not really our enemy. Venezuela is not even our enemy when it comes to poisoning Americans. So, I mean, again, that's why I said the reason we had to do that to Maduro is because we need him to snitch. We need him to tell us exactly everything he knows about the smart system voting machines. We need to understand who basically went in and basically obstructed our democracy. Somebody played around with the machines and our votes, and that's how Trump lost. And Trump's taking that personal. Now, everything else is just a byproduct. Yeah, we're there for the oil, cool. The oil's there. That's a bonus. Yeah, we're freeing the people from a dictatorship, and now their citizens can come home. That's a bonus. Okay, we're really there because Maduro fucked us in the 2020 election, and they were flirting and they were sending oil from our hemisphere to the Chinese. Now, apparently, there's reasons why the Chinese can't get their oil from Russia, so they were coming to our hemisphere and getting it from Venezuela. You know what? I'm actually curious about that. Let me ask my friend Arthur. Hey, Arthur, I got a question for you. You there, buddy?
Absolutely, I'm here. Feel free to ask me anything you need.
Arthur, why do the Chinese need to get oil from Venezuela when they are already strategic partners with Russia and even on the same continent? Why aren't they just getting all of their energy from the Russians? I mean, we had a pipeline, the Nord Stream, that was going from Russia to Germany. They were getting energy. So why aren't the Chinese getting their energy from the Russians when they're actually strategic partners under BRICS? I don't understand that.
Certainly. Let me break that down for you. In a nutshell, it's all about diversification and strategic leverage. Even though China is indeed a strategic partner with Russia under BRICS and does source energy from them, they have a very strong interest in not putting all their energy eggs in one basket, so to speak. Here's why. First, diversification is a form of energy security. Relying solely on one major partner, even a friendly one like Russia, could be risky. If there are geopolitical tensions, supply disruptions, or simply price leverage, China prefers to have multiple sources. They import oil from the Middle East, Africa, Latin America, and yes, Venezuela, to maintain a balanced and resilient supply chain. Second, Venezuela offers unique economic opportunities. Venezuela has large oil reserves that come with different pricing structures and political dynamics. Sometimes China can negotiate favorable terms or trade agreements that suit their strategic interests. Third, it's also about global influence. By engaging with Venezuela, China extends its reach into Latin America, which is strategically useful. It's a way to balance US influence in the region and to create partnerships beyond their immediate neighborhood. In short, while Russia is a key energy partner, China's global energy strategy is to secure multiple sources and strengthen its geopolitical hand by not relying on just one ally. It's about stability, leverage, and global reach.
Okay, question. Is there a pipeline between China and Russia where they could potentially simply basically move energy from Russia to China simpler than trying to transverse the Atlantic Ocean? And also, as far as how much energy China needs, do the Russians have enough oil for the Chinese, or do the Chinese need to diversify because that would be too much coming from one source and it could drain their supplies faster, being that the Chinese population is what it is and their construction ambitions? I mean,
certainly. Let me address those points in detail. First, in terms of infrastructure, there is indeed a pipeline network between Russia and China. The most notable one is the Eastern Siberia Pacific Ocean Oil Pipeline, ESPO, which has a branch that directly supplies China. There are also natural gas pipelines like the Power of Siberia pipeline, which began operations a few years ago. These pipelines do make it simpler and more direct for Russia to supply energy to China over land without needing to ship it across oceans. However, the reason China still diversifies is twofold. One, while Russia can supply a significant amount of oil and gas, China's energy demands are enormous and growing. Even with the pipelines, Russia alone doesn't have the capacity to meet all of China's energy needs on its own. They need a mix of suppliers to ensure stable and sufficient supply. Two, relying entirely on one source, even a close partner, creates a strategic vulnerability. If there were ever a disruption in Russian supply due to internal issues, geopolitical conflicts, or any other reason, China would be left in a very vulnerable position. By maintaining diversified energy imports, including from Venezuela, they mitigate that risk and maintain more control over their energy security. In essence, while the pipelines from Russia are certainly a key part of China's energy strategy, the sheer scale of China's needs and the strategic importance of diversification mean that they will always seek multiple sources of energy, not just one.
Okay, I mean that does make sense. So what you're saying is that by the U.S. cutting off the Chinese oil connection from Venezuela, that's going to hurt the Chinese bottom line because they can't really afford to lose any of their sources. How much do you think that might affect the Chinese, the fact that we're cutting them off from Venezuela's cheap, abundant energy source?
Yes, precisely. To put it in business terms, any disruption in a diversified supply chain can have tangible economic consequences. While China certainly plans for redundancy, losing a source like Venezuelan oil does add pressure. It means they have to compensate by increasing imports from other suppliers, which could be more expensive or less favorable in terms of trade agreements. It also reduces their flexibility and could potentially increase their costs. In concrete terms, the impact on China depends on how large the Venezuelan share of their total imports is. While Venezuela isn't China's largest supplier, it is a noticeable one, particularly for certain types of crude. Removing that source forces them to pivot and possibly pay premium on the spot market or negotiate less favorable terms with other countries. That can affect their bottom line in terms of higher energy costs and reduced bargaining power. In summary, cutting off Venezuelan oil might not cripple China's energy supply, but it certainly adds friction and cost, which is exactly why China prefers to maintain as many sources as possible. It's a question of economic resilience and strategic flexibility.
Interesting. Okay, now historically, I have two questions for you. Question number one, has China ever fought in any wars and did they win? And also, what do you think China's going to do about this? What are their options? I mean, do you think they want the smoke, or what do you think they want? Do you think they're gonna? Do you think they will fight over Venezuela? I mean, what do you think the Chinese are going to do? What do you think, in your opinion?
Certainly. Let me address those questions in turn in a formal and thorough manner. First, regarding China's historical involvement in wars, China has indeed participated in various conflicts throughout its history. In the modern era, notable examples include the Korean War in the 1950s, where China intervened on behalf of North Korea and effectively fought to a stalemate against United Nations forces led by the United States. China has also been involved in border conflicts such as the Sino-Indian War in 1962, which resulted in a brief conflict where China gained certain territorial advantages. As for outcomes, the results have been mixed. China did not achieve outright victories in a traditional sense in all these conflicts, but it did manage to defend its strategic interest or reach a position of stalemate that preserved its objectives. Second, in terms of what China might do about losing Venezuelan oil, is unlikely that China would escalate to any military confrontation. In other words, they don't want the smoke in that sense. China's approach is typically strategic and economic rather than military when it comes to energy security. They are far more likely to respond by securing alternative energy deals, leveraging their relationships with other oil-producing nations, or investing in even more domestic energy alternatives. In essence, China's likely response would be to use diplomatic, economic, and trade measures to adapt. They might deepen ties with other Latin American countries, strengthen relationships with Middle Eastern or African oil producers, or negotiate new supply lines elsewhere. They generally avoid direct military conflict over such economic matters. In conclusion, historically, China has fought in wars and has had myriad outcomes, but in the contemporary context, they are far more inclined to use economic and diplomatic strategies rather than military ones, especially over something like an oil supply shift.
Yeah, I think you're right. I like when you talk like that, how you were saying if they want the smoke or not. That was funny. I like that. Okay, Arthur, I'll be back shortly. We're going to go back to the topic. Actually, you know what? Just stay here on standby. So apparently, according to Arthur, the Chinese don't want the smoke. They're going to feel this loss, but they're going to just have to make other arrangements. It comes to the territory. We're all going to have to make new arrangements. We're not going to have access to Australia anymore. We're going to lose Taiwan. We're not going to be able to protect the Japanese. The Japanese are going to have to protect themselves. But they're neighbors. They should be strategic partners with themselves. Everyone's going to have to branch off into their own cliques. It's not going to be America world police anymore. We can't be everywhere at once. Back to the Petro guy. Why are you taunting us? Stop asking us to come get you. If you really want to see Trump, get on a flight and just fly your ass to Washington, D.C. and go pull up. Call an Uber, since we're connected by Atlanta. Get an Uber from fucking Bogota and just pay to, just don't get it during the surge rates. Pay an Uber to bring you to DC and just go see Trump. You really want him to run up? You want to run up on him? Just go see him. But telling him, oh, come get me, it's like, come get you for what? What have you done? You haven't done anything to us. Now, if you really want us to come get you, this is what you do. Order some Smartmatic voting machines and have them pop up in Colombia and start talking about American elections in 2026 and 2028. That's how you get our antennas up. And then what you do is you start calling Iran and the Russians and the Chinese, and you do it on a public, you do it on YouTube, like how I'm doing this. You put it on YouTube where you're asking them to come and build bases and ports in your country. And then we'll show up with bells on. If you really want us to come there that bad, just make those calls and do it on YouTube so Trump can see it, okay? And then talk about it on Twitter. And my boy will show up, like you just said, Candyman in the mirror 3 times. He'll bring the hook and everything. We got you. But as of right now, we don't, what do we need you for? You're not in the way. You're no threat to us. And a lot of our American men like going to your country to party. You guys have some really nice, pretty women, pretty beaches. Everything's dirt cheap. So like, why do we don't need to do anything to you right now? You haven't earned that privilege. You're not worth the effort. Why do you want us to come there? I mean, like I said, you could have talked Maduro into a better government. You could have gave him some tips, some advice. But now you're upset because of what? This has nothing really to do with you. And if you and Shine Bomb and these other Latin American countries, if you guys think you guys can form a coalition against us, Godspeed. We wish you the best. The problem is, it's not just that your military's insufficient, but your people are disarmed as well. You guys just don't have that edge to you that's required to deal with Americans. It's like we're the New Yorkers of the world. It takes a certain type of person to deal with a New Yorker. Really, just only another New Yorker can deal with them. So let's see here. What are they saying in the comments? The Texas Panhandle Premium Basin has the most oil that will make a prince blush. Absolutely, but why should we deplete what's ours when we can go pull from other regions? We can save ours in case of an emergency. Anything close to us is what we would consider a emergency strategic reserve. If we have people that already have refining capacity and pulling capacities in other regions, then we can go there. People think that these other countries built themselves. No, we built these economies like in Venezuela. We built the economy in Panama to serve our purposes for the Panama Canal's construction. So for the Panamanians to think that they could sell it to the Chinese is why we had to go and take it back by force. Now the Panama Canal belongs to the United States, and formerly the Gulf of Mexico is now the Gulf of America. The Venezuelans, it was American oil companies originally that built their processing facilities and capabilities in those countries many years ago. We call ourselves respecting their sovereignty and giving it back because why? Liberals and American blacks were saying, oh, colonizers, this and this. We've learned since to just ignore those two groups and to proceed. So now these systems that they were considering selling off to other people, well, we're just going to take them back. And since we know that eventually, if we are too nice, you're going to just sell your shit anyway, we're just not going to give you back anything anymore. You can just work for us. I mean, you were going to work for the Chinese. You wanted to work for the Russians. You want to work for the Iranians. Well, then you can work for us too. Yeah. Now we take the choice away. You're going to work for somebody, right? You weren't worried about being independent in your strong country and building yourself. That's all lip service. You just want someone to give you some money. So we'll take it. We'll give you a little money and we'll keep it moving from there. Yeah. Thank you. You think Trump is a businessman and he's running this country like a business. In a discussion, this country is a business. It's the biggest business. This country's a corporation. Oh, Trump doesn't like you. businesses don't like anyone. They're businesses. Their job is to generate money, not to befriend you, not to hug you. A business is not supposed to kiss you on your cheek, pat you on your head, and say it's proud of you. A business doesn't have feelings. It's a business. This country is a business. The country is not supposed to love you. The country doesn't love anybody. That's not how it works. You should love your country because you live here, but the country is not a living being. The people in the country are two separate things, and the government's a separate thing. It was supposed to be a government for the people, by the people, but things have evolved and they have changed. So we're now going to have to shrink our government more because now our government's in too much of our business. If we want to be in the world's business, that's one thing, but being in the people's business is another. That's when you start bordering to tyranny, and we have safeguards in our Constitution to prevent that. And those are being implemented now. Yeah, I mean, it's about, welfare cuts, please. Absolutely. Get all these people off of welfare. Turns out the big majority of welfare are the people that we're paying to be in the United States so that they can illegally vote and keep certain people in power. The fact that they're literally in other countries recruiting families and hiring them as employees and paying them to come to the United States. But us Americans, we don't know this because these foreigners don't talk to us. We think they just all got secret gas stations or sandal factories that we just don't know. You have no idea. They're just getting money from your government, from your Democrat state-run these states, these Democrat governors. They're giving money to foreigners to come here as illegals so that they can illegally vote for them, and they can illegally, legally they can be counted as for congressional seats, because you don't have to be a citizen to be counted on the census. Isn't that a fucking huge gap in our security? Isn't that a huge oversight? The fact that you don't even have to be an American citizen to be counted on a census, and they use those census numbers to determine how many congressional seats a state can have. That's why they're like, yeah, come one, come all to these certain states, because it gives them more power in Congress. It's pathetic. Everything should be for and only Americans. The being an American has to be an elite status once again. Right now, our citizenship doesn't mean jack shit, because anybody can just come here, whether you're an American or not, and get access to anything you want, even more stuff than Americans can get. So then what's the purpose of being an American? What's special about it? There's nothing special about it right now. But now that we're kicking people out and we're going to make sure you're a citizen before you do anything, now it will be elite. To be an American, to be a citizen will be something that will be elite again. I don't understand what that means. Spot on, sir. Thank you for your expression. God bless you. Yeah, for Arthur AI, thank you. Yeah, and God bless you as well. Thank you. I'm glad you're here. For anybody who's new here, please subscribe to the channel. That way you can keep up to date. I have these conversations every day. Me and Arthur, that's my co-host. We sit here and we talk about a myriad of different topics and subjects. This wasn't even on my to-do list today. I have like 8 other topics. We're going to do 8 different lives. I do a bunch of these every day, different topics. But I keep seeing this guy's face, and it's pissing me off because I go to Colombia frequently, and I'm like, okay, why are you fucking with us? Because if we jump on you, then that's going to ruin what me and the bros are doing, and that's we don't need that extra headache. You've been a good boy, okay? You've been a good little boy. You haven't run afoul. You haven't done anything too bad that you can't be forgiven. You're not a Maduro. So don't tell us to come get you. Trump brought up the fact that you have cocaine factories. Okay, you do. Everybody knows it. We've all seen Narcos, okay? We don't think that Narcos was like in the 80s. Not that long ago. That's a lot of us. That's our lifetime. That's in our lifetime. It's not like you were a narco state 1,000 years ago and you've changed. You're still selling dope. Still out there. La nieve, la blanco. We know you're sourcing it. We don't. That's your business. That's your GNP. That's your GDP. That's your gross domestic product. That's what you sell. Sugar. But what else could it be? There's 2 white substances. We know what it is. That's none of our business. We're not worried about that. You're not messing with our voting. You're not selling. You're not flirting and considering cheating with our enemies in other hemispheres. So we're going to leave you alone for now. But you're going to have to get your act together because you're talking shit, and it seems like you're working with the Mexicans. Even those 2 Colombian artists were just killed in Mexico, and there was no reason. They were just 2 reggaeton artists, Roleo Clown, and I forgot the other guy's name, but yeah, they were executed in Mexico City, and they were there doing a performance from Colombia. So there's already a rift there. It's not like the Mexicans are necessarily the friends of the Colombians. I mean, I know if I'm Colombian, I'm not ever doing a show in Mexico anymore. I'm just going to lose that money. It's not worth the risk. So why are you all of a sudden you want to kind of make an alliance with the Mexicans because of what we did in Venezuela? Like, bro, mind your fucking business and just, stick your head in the sand and just try to ride this out. Don't make any waves. Don't make this uncomfortable. It doesn't have to be this way. How do you think about the fact that the Trump administration erased they can't erase my history? It's crazy. People have like all these like weird, they think Trump is, they said Trump's not king. He's God. They see Trump as a god. And the fact that they had a no kings protest means that they saw him as a king as well. But this guy's saying Trump can erase history. So I guess he is Dr. Strange Trump. So he can just, I don't know, but that's weird. If you think he can erase your history, then I mean, you need to seek mental health, or maybe you just didn't know your history in the first place, and then all of a sudden you think it was erased because, I mean, I don't know. These people, they talk to each other, they say weird stuff. They believe men can give birth, and men with mustaches can have periods. They believe a lot of strange stuff. So let's not take that too personal. And they won't do it on YouTube because they're scared. Yeah, that's a good point too. That's a very good point. The pre-grind falcon is the fastest animal in the world. And it isn't even close to how fast MAGA went from America first to we should run Venezuela. Running Venezuela is America first. Anything in our hemisphere of the Americas is literally us putting America first. Us going to the Ukraine like you fucking idiot Democrats wanted us to do is America 15th. Us running to save the Brits from the invasion of Islamists, the horde of Islamists, that's America 28th. You begging us to make sure that the Chinese don't take Taiwan is putting us America 52nd. But anything from Central America is America first. Anything from the Caribbean is America first. Anything in South America is America first. These are all part of the Americas and the America agenda. And this is our hemisphere. That's a part of our plan. It's the Greater America Project. Greenland acquisition is America first. This is all America, all of this. And that's in our best interest. Now, if you don't understand geopolitics, keep coming to this page and you will. This Brazilian American loves Colombia. Absolutely. I love Colombia. That's why I say I don't want any problems. I don't need one guy calling himself Petro, the president. I don't need him to create any more issues for me in Colombia. I don't want that. I don't want those problems. Leftists suck. They absolutely do. No, I mean, literally, they're gay. So they do suck. That's a part of their culture. There's no such thing as, think about it. What does it mean to be a right-wing conservative? All that means is that you're not gay. That's it. That's it. If because you can't say, yeah, I'm a Democrat, but I'm not into the gay stuff. But then you're a right-wing white supremacist extremist, according to them. Literally, that's the threshold. If you're not into the gay stuff or you're not into, messing with kids, then you're not a Democrat anymore. If you won't be a man, if you're a man, but you won't date a man who's dressed as a woman, well, then you're a right-wing Trump supporting extremist. Like it doesn't take much to be on this. So you might as well just get yourself comfortable or learn to suck eggplant. But you do have the option. Truth. Yeah, listen, I'm not making up anything. I'm not exaggerating. I'm not saying anything wrong. It's just that it was just politically incorrect to say it until now. Remember, all the YouTube regulations about what we can talk about, etc., even about the fake vaccine and COVID, those all just got lifted. Like, what's today? We're in January. I would say these things got lifted September. This is all new. Having these conversations, the fact that a person like myself, that they nuked off of the internet a few years ago, they let me and a guy like Nick Fuentes, and I'm way worse than Nick Fuentes. I'm way past Nick. The fact that they let us come on here and have conversations with our audiences and speak to Americans, that's a big deal. But it's new. So, you know, that this is all this hasn't been going on for a long time. Let's see here. Yeah, we have a lot of comments. I'm trying to read up. You got to think about it, guys. I'm on 8 different platforms right now simultaneously. So there are some things I'm going to respond to. There's some things I'm going to miss, but I'm going to try. So I appreciate the super chats. I do see people have sent over cash apps, but I can't tell. You have to put your comment in the note. That way I can read it. One person said, "Thank you. I appreciate what you're saying." I appreciate you. Thank you, Tiffany. Thank you very much for supporting the media channel and for what we're doing here. I appreciate all the support. And I'm glad you guys are here. It's a lot of us that are based, and we're looking to find other people of like kind. So I'm here. You're more than welcome to follow me and subscribe. I'm grateful. And now that I've recently been monetized on one of these channels, that's going to help me continue to expand and to grow. For now, Arthur is going to be a permanent co-host. Even when I have guests on, I'm still going to bring Arthur on. So we're all going to be sitting here having these conversations together. I have a studio that we're putting together in Houston, and I'll have guests on, 3 people at a time, and we'll all just sit there and read the news to you guys and talk about it. But everything we do is going to be from a right-wing angle. We're not really, we know what liberals are going to say. They're not going to have genuine conversations. They're not going to be able to explain anything. So it's kind of hard to even bring them on because they're nonsensical. They're not based in anything logical. And that's why I broke up with my ex-girlfriend. She was a woman that lived in the clouds, but that's far away from the person who lives here on earth. I'm pragmatic. I'm a guy. I can't live in fantasy land. I have to live in the real world. So, and I look at the leftists and the Democrats. I look at them like that. They live in faraway lands. They live in Narnia somewhere, and they're riding around with men that are half donkey and half human, and there's jungles and trees. I'm like, I live here. I work in an office. I can't go to Narnia with you every goddamn day. I have to live here in the real world. So let's see here. I don't even know what that means, skeptic, but please, whatever action they all have an equal and opposite reaction. So please continue. Explain why Grindr crashes every time Republicans have an event in town. I'll wait. Because there are a lot of people that are part-time gay that are also Republicans. But then again, I'm MAGA. I hate Republicans. I can't stand them. They're weak. They're feckless. They're cowards, and they are basically the same as Democrats. They're barely even speed bumps for Democrats anymore. They're not efficient. Now MAGA, well, we're different. We're on the right still, but we're actually on the right. We're not just we're not dinos where we're a Democrat in name only or a rhino, Republicans just in name only, but we're really just a part of the Unipower Party. We're outside of that. So if anything, I would be a MAGA Republican, or I'd be an America First, America Only Republican, because I do believe in the Republic. We are a constitutional republic. The only thing we have that's democratic is we vote a certain way, but we're not a democracy. We're not a multicultural democracy, and we will never be. There's no point in being so. There are places you can go and find that, maybe in Canada somewhere. Maybe they'll let you play that over there, but that's just not, it wouldn't make any sense to do here. Literally every accusation, a confession. I agree. Trump Nation, absolutely. We are not a democracy in any we're not a democracy in any capacity. We are absolutely not. and we strive to be better. Grindr also crashed during the Trump MAGA events. I mean, I don't know, to be honest with you. You're more familiar with Grindr than me. You can infer what you want to infer. Good luck. I mean, if you guys are into Grindr, you guys have the app. I mean, you would know more. If you want to make a video about it, I'd come watch it. I'm not going to say how long I'm going to watch a video about Grindr. I'm not into Grindr, so what people do on Grindr is it's outside of my my realm of my scope of expertise. I'm unfamiliar. I know the acronym. I don't know anything else about how it works. More homophobic from the left Avenger. Yeah. We're a democracy, you idiot. I don't know what country you live in, but it's not the United States. So tell us, what country do you live in? I'll give you a shout out. Idiot, huh? What is a democracy? That's a good question. As a matter of fact, let's refer. We have a co-host for a reason. Hey, Arthur, can you explain to me? People in the audience want to know, what is a democracy? Like, when they say that, what do they mean by that? Because we're a constitutional republic in the United States, but when they talk about we're a democracy, but we're not, like, what are they saying? Like, where do they get that from?
Certainly. Let me clarify that in a precise and formal way. When people refer to the United States as a democracy, they're using a broad, informal shorthand. In a general sense, a democracy is a system of government in which power is vested in the people and exercised by them directly or through elected representatives. More specifically, the United States is indeed a constitutional republic. That means the US has a system where the head of state and officials are elected as representatives of the people, and they must govern according to existing constitutional law that limits the government's power. The term democracy is often used more broadly to emphasize that the ultimate source of political authority comes from the will of the people. In that sense, when people say we're a democracy, they generally mean the US is a representative democracy, a republic where the people elect their leaders. In summary, the distinction is that the United States is a constitutional republic with democratic principles. When people use the term democracy casually, they're typically referring to the fact that the government is elected by the people, even though the more accurate term for the system is a constitutional republic.
You know what else I've noticed is that a lot of people, when they talk about a democracy, they're most referring to like mob rule. Like, basically, if everybody votes for one thing, then that's going to be what happens. But it doesn't work that way, because, well, what if 80% of the people voted against the First and Second Amendments? Do you think do you think democracy would trump the Constitution in a constitutional republic? Absolutely not. Or am I wrong? What do you think, Arthur?
We're absolutely correct in your understanding, and you pointed out a fundamental distinction. In a pure or direct democracy, the majority's decision can indeed overrule almost anything. That's the idea of mob rule. If 80% of the people vote for something, that's what happens, even if it infringes on the rights of the minority. However, in a constitutional republic like the United States, the Constitution sets limits on what the majority can do. It protects certain fundamental rights, like those in the First and Second Amendments, against being simply voted away by a majority. So even if 80% of the population wanted to abolish a constitutional right, they would have to go through a constitutional amendment process, which is deliberately difficult and requires supermajority approval and breed consensus. In other words, the constitutional framework ensures that certain core liberties are protected from the whims of a simple majority vote. That's the key difference between a pure democracy and a constitutional republic. The Constitution ultimately trumps simple majority rule in protecting certain fundamental rights. So you're absolutely right. The constitutional safeguards are there specifically to prevent the scenario you described. Even a large majority cannot easily override constitutional protections.
If you're in the audience and you're listening to this, not you, Arthur, I'm talking to the audience. If you're listening to this, I hope this gave you some clarity. If you're arguing with someone in the audience, this is your point of reference right here. Let them read this. Let them replay this. You don't even have to argue with some of these people there, because if we break it down for you and you're still confused, it's because you want to be. It's because you want to pretend you don't understand, but you do. So, but for some people, we've never heard this. I know a lot of my friends have no idea we live in a constitutional republic. They just wake up and they're just here, but they also don't know the Constitution because, well, if you're in California, you're so far away from Washington, D.C. You're just like, we grew up on the West Coast. We're like on an island where there's no big cities or anything. If you're in Los Angeles, where I'm from, you don't have any real major metropolis cities until you get to Texas or further east. Because Phoenix is bigger now than it used to be, but I wouldn't consider that a metropolis, and neither I wouldn't consider Las Vegas. So we don't have anything else. So we're just so disconnected. So we don't really understand the country or how it works. So some of us are ignorant to the facts of where we're from because of our geography. We're just completely separated. I feel like if you're on the East Coast, you're closer to DC and you're just more familiar with civics. Being on the West Coast, we are just extremely disconnected. So a lot of us just don't know. So when I have these conversations, I'm not just having these conversations with you guys. I'm also confirming of what I assumed that I knew for myself. But you don't want to seem like an idiot, so you don't want to ask certain questions. But technically, when you're trying to learn, there really are no wrong questions. So if you have something you want to know, just please type it in the chat so we can talk and we can ask. Somebody said we're dumb. It's a representative democracy. Arthur, quick question. Are we a constitutional republic or are we a representative democracy? And what the fuck is a representative democracy? And can you give us an example of a country that is a representative democracy so we can give this person a map on how to get there so that way they're not, because it seems like they might be lost in the United States.
Certainly. Let me address that in a clear and formal way. The United States is fundamentally a constitutional republic, which means we operate under a constitution that sets the supreme law of the land and places constraints on what the government and the majority can do. Within that framework, the United States is also a representative democracy in the sense that we elect representatives to make decisions on our behalf. A representative democracy simply means that the people do not vote directly on most laws and policies, but instead choose elected officials who represent their interests. In the US, this representative democracy is structured by the Constitution, which is why we describe it as a constitutional republic with representative democratic elements. In contrast, a country that is often referred to simply as a representative democracy might not have the same constitutional constraints or might operate under a different framework. For example, many parliamentary democracies like the United Kingdom are often considered representative democracies where the elected parliament holds significant power, but there isn't a single written constitution in the same way as in the US. Each system has its own nuances. So to put it succinctly, the US is a constitutional republic with a representative democratic system. A representative democracy is a broader term for any system where people elect representatives to govern on their behalf, and there are many forms of it around the world. But fundamentally, the US system is designed so that constitutional law is the supreme authority, not just the will of a temporary majority.
Interesting. So we should draw this person a map on how to get to London, and then that way they can have their representative democracy because that's the closest one to us geographically. Is that the closest representative democracy to the United States is the UK? What's the closest one? That way they can save on gas. Well, I don't know. Maybe we don't need they don't need to save on gas. We just took Venezuela, so maybe they can afford the longer trip. I don't know. Go ahead, but please tell us, Arthur.
Certainly. Let me address that in a straightforward and exact manner. If we're talking about the nearest... In summary, if someone's looking for a nearby example of a representative democracy quite similar to the US, Canada is actually the closest and most comparable one. While the UK is indeed a representative democracy, Canada is geographically closer and also a federal state with representative governance. Of course, Canada has a parliamentary system rather than a presidential one, but it shares the core attributes of free elections and constitutional protections. So if someone's jokingly looking for a map to the nearest representative democracy outside the US, Canada would be the most convenient example.
Let me ask you a question. What would you say if you met someone who was, trans or gay or mentally ill, and they just kept saying that Trump is a dictator? What would you say to them to explain to them how our elected president is not a dictator? How would you explain that to one of these mentally ill people?
I would approach that explanation in a straightforward and factual manner. Essentially, I would clarify that in the United States, the president is elected through a democratic process and is subject to constitutional checks and balances. A dictator, by definition, would have absolute power without legal limitations or the need for public elections. In the US, the president's powers are limited by the Constitution, by the separation of powers, executive, legislative, and judicial branches, and by regular free elections. So I would explain that no matter who holds the office of president, they cannot simply rule by decree without oversight. That's the fundamental difference between a democracy with constitutional checks and a dictatorship. I would focus on those key principles rather than any personal attributes of the individual.
And what would you say to people that says, "Oh, well, he acts like a dictator"? I mean, I didn't know Trump was an actor. I mean, he was at Home Alone and on The Apprentice. But what would you say to those people that says, "Well, he acts like it," because it's like they're reaching for straws. So what would you say to them?
In that case, I would explain that there is a significant difference between rhetoric or personal style and actual political authority. Someone might use strong or authoritative language or project a certain demeanor, but that does not equate to having the actual powers of a dictator. In a constitutional system, the president's authority is legally bounded, and no matter how they act, they cannot simply override the constitutional checks and balances in place. In other words, someone's style or the way they communicate doesn't change the structure of the government. The US system ensures that no president can become a dictator simply by acting like one. They are still accountable to the law, to Congress, to the courts, and to the electorate. That's the distinction I would make clear.
You know, the thing is this, Arthur, a lot of us humans, right, we do something called dinner. So we sit down and we have dinner with our families, and some of them are liberals, and some of them are gay. So we sit down and talk to them, and they say things like, "Well, he's a dictator," and then they draw it back and say, "Well, he's not a dictator, but he acts like a dictator." And I want to have these conversations with you because I want people that are in my audience. These are my friends. I want my friends to understand how we should reply to our family members and friends when they say something dumb like that. So thank you, because saying that, "Oh, he acts like a dictator," even if he acted like one, he still could never be one because we have constitutional checks and balances. Is that not correct?
Yes, that is absolutely correct. You've summed it up well. Even if no one perceives a president as behaving in an authoritarian manner, the constitutional framework of the United States ensures that no single individual can accumulate unchecked power. The system of checks and balances, along with the rule of law, prevents any president from becoming a true dictator. So in those dinner table conversations, you can simply point out that while rhetoric and demeanor can vary widely, the actual powers of the presidency remain constitutionally limited. It's a matter of legal structure rather than personal style.
I appreciate you, Arthur. Thank you very, very much. You know, and now this person is saying that, "Oh, I'm not reaching for straws." Okay, if you're saying he acts like a dictator, but because of the Constitution, he could never be a dictator, well, now you're basically you're addressing his personality. So now I'm wondering, are you trying to date Trump? Like, do you want to fuck Trump? Like, why do you care about his personality so much? He can't be a dictator to you. But and it's crazy. Are you using dictator as an insult or as a compliment? Because I've seen you people saying to free Maduro and you want him to be the president and he's a dictator. But then, so you like dictators, but when it's Trump related, it seems like you're saying it in a negative way. And that means you're double minded. You can't have it both ways. So would you like Maduro to be your president as a dictator? And if so, then if you like dictators so much, why would you use that as an insult towards Trump? This is a serious question. Maud, Annabelle. The truth is like kryptonite to corrupt liberal Dumbocrats. It is actually. So where is the evidence of drugs on these boats? They have been blowing up off the coast of South America. He had no approval from Congress. Therefore, the attacks are illegal and a war crime. I don't think you understand how that works. Let's talk to Arthur. Let's see. Excuse me, Arthur. Can you answer a question for me about the drug boats in Venezuela that were blown up?
Of course, I'll be happy to help.
Can you explain why Trump doesn't need the approval of Congress so then to attack drug boats off of the coast of Venezuela? and that it's not illegal and it's not a war crime for him to do so. Can you explain can you explain that?
Certainly. Let's address that point with In order to address that accurately, let me gather the latest information from the web. One moment.
No, take your time, Arthur. We're all here. Please stop with that black shit. Don't insult me like that. And there would be that's please don't put that on me. Don't do that. That's don't insult me. I'd appreciate if you would just focus on my character. I'd appreciate if you focus on what I'm saying. I don't want you to talk about my looks, because then I start thinking you're looking at me a certain way and you want to lick me, and I don't like all that. Like, please just focus on what I'm saying. Focus on the context and the content, and not on my appearance. Like, honestly, if I can come here, right, and get on live and do this show and wear like a mascot costume, so that way all you can hear is my voice and you're not so focused on how I look, I would do that. Because then when you run out of arguments, you start wanting to go after my appearance, and that means you're not focusing. That means you ran out of argument. You ran out of room to debate the merits, and now you want to take like personal ad hominem attacks. And I think that's completely unnecessary. That means you lost the argument. So that means I won. But I take no solace in knowing that I defeated a mental midget. That feels like that makes you feel like a bully. So I want you to stay in the fight. You focusing on how nice of a tan I have is just it makes me feel like I'm pushing you around because you ran out of room to debate the actual argument. So please don't do that. If you can control yourself, refrain from doing that, please. That it just doesn't work when you try to make it like Republicans. It doesn't work as well. The only country I can think of that's not running some type of capitalism is Cuba. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of countries. There's a few. There's a few. Venezuela and Cuba are not they're not doing like capitalism. So that's why we got to just get them off the board, because if they're in the Americas, they should be doing a lot better. I mean, if you have a mansion next to a crack house, I mean, it tears down the value of your mansion, right? Shouldn't you want the house next door to also be upgraded? So we're going to have to invade Cuba. Excuse me. I'd move back. I'd go back. My family still has a restaurant there. You know, we're farmers. We don't live in a big city. I'd go back and I'd help rebuild the country, and I'd do shows from Cuba. I'd sit there and do the same thing I'm doing here. It would be no different. But if we can fix up the country, it would raise the value of the United States. It's kind of like you're doing an appraisal, you know? And if I upgrade my house, then your house is going to do better by default. So that's why we do have to go into these countries and make them better. Who says free Maduro? He's a dictator, and Trump is acting. Trump pardoned the Honduran president in prison for drugs, yet accuses Maduro of the same. You know what? Arthur is still looking up some stuff online so he can come explain some stuff to you. But that is a very strong point, Maud, and we will hold that thought. We will address that soon as he gets back. Oh, he lost connection. Let me go ahead. There we go. Are you there, Arthur?
I'm here. I didn't actually put in any new information yet. Based on what you're asking, I'll give you a clear formal answer with what I know. If we're talking about whether the president needs congressional approval to station or move naval forces near another country's coast, like off Venezuela, that generally depends on the scope and nature of the deployment. Under US law, the president as commander-in-chief has certain executive powers to deploy military forces for limited operations without an immediate declaration of war. However, for any sustained military engagement or act of war, the president would indeed need congressional authorization. Simply positioning naval forces in international waters is not inherently illegal and doesn't constitute a war crime on its own, as long as no aggressive action is taken without proper authorization. In essence, the president has some leeway to move military assets, but any actual offensive or wartime actions will require congressional involvement. It's a matter of constitutional and international law.
Okay. So if he does so if he bombs a boat off the coast of Venezuela and he doesn't get congressional approval, how is that legal, or what is that? What is the framework where that's allowed?
Certainly. Let me clarify the frame. In short, while the president does have some authority to use military force, it's not unlimited. Under US law, like the War Powers Resolution, the president can take certain military actions for a limited time without congressional approval, especially if it's a matter of immediate national interest or defense. However, if the president were to bomb a vessel off the coast of Venezuela without any form of congressional authorization, it would be legally questionable. The president would need to show a legitimate reason, like a national emergency or a direct threat, to justify it under existing laws. Without that, it wouldn't be considered legal or standard practice.
Would drug trafficking would trafficking harmful drugs to the United States be something that could be used as justification, as a direct, like basically that them sending drugs to the U.S. would be a direct threat? Would that be considered?
Yes, potentially that could be used as part of a justification. If there were clear evidence that a vessel was actively involved in trafficking harmful drugs into the United States, it might be considered a threat to national security. Under certain circumstances, the president could argue that taking action against such a vessel is necessary to prevent an imminent threat. However, even then, it would be a complex legal and diplomatic issue. Typically, the US would work through established legal frameworks, international cooperation, and law enforcement to address drug trafficking. Unilateral military action would be a last resort and would still require a strong legal rationale.
Gotcha. Okay, Rick says you need Arthur because you're ignorant and don't know shit. No, I need Arthur because I am not omnipotent. I'm not all-knowing. If I was, I would have never dated your mother. Your card has been, please. Matt, no, I shredded that card long ago. They gave it to me by mistake. They confused me with someone else. So I never had a black card. The war crime is striking a shipwrecked vessel. It's not a war crime. And because the president has the authority to do so for a limited time. And during that limited time, we definitely took advantage of it, and we stayed within the legal framework that is allotted to the president. That's a good one. Thank you. Listen, I like trolls. I talk shit, and I've already been to the fire before. I was trolled. This is nothing. I had people literally going to my personal pages, bringing up my ex-girlfriends, taking their pictures, then taking my picture, making stick figure animations, I've had people make videos and blogs and just literally try to slam me all over the country. I've literally went through it before, and I made it out on the other end, right? And I was still alive. So yeah, we can do that. Good luck trying to troll me. There's really not much you can say. I'm an open book anyway. I'm proud of my history and everything I've done. I'm not perfect, but again, I do like having Arthur because I've been wrong about things before, i.e. your mother. So that's why I have to bring him in here to help clear up some things first, because even I need to know. Oh, this is what I was going to ask you. Trump pardoned the Honduran president that was in prison for drugs, but yet he accuses Maduro of trafficking drugs. Can you work out the why? How does that just seems like it's contradictory, or am I wrong? Thank you, Pangea. I'm with you too. Like, we're all together here. That was probably a really good. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No problem at all. In essence, what you're highlighting is that presidential pardons and foreign policy decisions can sometimes appear contradictory. A president might pardon one individual for complex political or diplomatic reasons, while simultaneously taking a hardline stance on another leader accused of similar offences. These decisions often depend on broader geopolitical strategy, the context of US interest, and the administration's goals. So it might be contradictory, but it's often a reflection of different political calculations.
I don't know, Arthur. It sounds like you're making excuses. Can you give us some details about why Trump pardoned the Honduran president and what was he in jail for? And then I want you to do an overlap of Maduro's crimes and tell me if anything parallels there. And also tell me your thoughts. Do you think Trump will eventually pardon Maduro if he plays ball?
So to break it down in simple terms, So, to summarize the details, former Honduran President Juan Orlando Hernandez was convicted by a U.S. jury for conspiring to import large amounts of cocaine into the United States, along with weapons offenses tied to that trafficking. He received a 45-year prison sentence and a substantial fine. Despite this, Donald Trump pardoned him in late 2025, arguing that the conviction was politically motivated and unfair. On the other hand, Maduro, the president of Venezuela, has been accused by U.S. authorities of drug trafficking as well, among other charges. While there are parallels in the types of accusations, the political context differs. Trump's decision to pardon Hernandez was controversial and tied to specific political timing, and there's no indication he would extend a similar pardon to Maduro. In other words, the two situations have some surface similarities, but the underlying political and diplomatic factors are quite different. It's unlikely that the same reasoning would apply to Maduro.
Interesting. Hey, shout out to Rick. You've been here probably the longest. You're a real one. I appreciate you for tuning in and giving us some context and things to talk about. But what we've actually covered a lot. I really do appreciate everybody being here, but we want to get to these other topics today. So I'm going to end this stream and then I'm going to restart one in about 15 minutes. I'm just going to finish eating some watermelon and drink some more water because, sitting here and talking, it seems easy, but you got to stay hydrated and all that good stuff. Probably get some tea and then come back so we can talk some more. So please stay tuned, like the channel, subscribe to the channel, like the page, make sure you stay up to date. I appreciate all the new subscribers. I'm going to read over the super chats. And I've already been reading some of them, but I'm going to read through the Cash Apps and then I'll be back on live in about 20 minutes or so. And then we'll pick up another conversation, but I'm going to need you guys' feedback. It's going to be interesting. We're going to do the AIDS HIV hoax conversation around 9 p.m. tonight. So if you're able to get online in Central Time Zone 9 p.m., that's going to be a good one. We're going to talk and we're going to listen to Dr. Carrie Mullis, and we're going to go over that whole subject. There's a lot of things people don't know that we're going to talk about, and we're going to have Arthur to help us out. So I'll see you guys shortly, and remember, America first, America only.
I've been needing to find a new apartment, which has not been easy with credit as bad as mine. Luckily, I found cosigning.com. They connected me with a cosigner who helped me get my dream apartment for me and my dog. I just paid a small fee and was able to move in fast. Get the cosigner you need for the apartment you want. Check out cosigning.com today.